Dear conservatives, you want the innocent protected. You want to be tough on crime because you don't want nasty people inflicting harm on good people. And I absolutely commend you for that. And as a result of that, you support law enforcement because you hope that they will be the ones to stop the nasty people and protect the innocent. But they don't do that, do they? Part of you knows they don't do that. Once in a blue moon, they might catch a criminal after the fact, but the vast majority of the time, you know they don't show up in time to stop crimes. You can see with your own eyes what they do. They pull people over for having the wrong window tint or not having the right sticker on their car. They're tax collectors. They're road pirates. They're not what Hollywood pretends they are. They're not out there actually protecting the innocent. They're out there robbing productive people. And part of you doesn't want to admit that because you want them so much to be defenders of the innocent. You want so much to believe that they protect and serve the people. But they don't. And part of you knows they don't. So what do? They protect and serve the ruling class. That's their job. Law enforcer is not the same as innocence protector. It means whatever arbitrary garbage the politicians decide to call law, the people who are wearing the badges are going to force you to comply. If that means hand over your guns, we don't trust you to be armed, we the ruling class, who do you think's going to enforce that? All the arbitrary, intrusive garbage they want to do, who do you think's going to enforce that? You support law enforcement because you want them to be something that they're not. They have never been. They will never be. They serve the people who pay them, which is the politicians, the ruling class. So I absolutely commend your good intentions of wanting to protect the innocent. I want that too. Supporting the armed thugs of the state is not the way to do that. You also want Americans protected from all the nastiness that exists in the rest of the world. So you support the military and the brave men and women who serve in the military because you want that to be a giant machine capable of force to defend Americans from all the nastiness there may be out in the world. And there is nastiness out in the world. But that's not what the U.S. military does. It's not what it has ever done. It serves the ruling class. It creates enemies where there were none. It hasn't defended an attack against the U.S. since 1812. The last time there was actually an invasion. And most of you didn't even know that. Again, I commend your intentions of wanting the people on this particular piece of dirt to be protected from all the nastiness of the rest of the world. But that's not what the U.S. military does. It creates enemies. It plays the warmongering game to serve the interests of political parasites. Part of you knows that. But you might not want to admit it because you're so attached to the idea that waving the flag and supporting the troops means wanting freedom and justice and protection for Americans. That's not what it means. That's not what it has ever meant. And that brings up your patriotism, your love of the flag. You proudly wave that flag because you think it means freedom. You want it to mean freedom. That's what you believe in. It doesn't mean freedom. to the republic for which it stands. It symbolizes the ruling class, not freedom. If you think the American flag represents freedom, why does it fly over every IRS office, DEA, ATF, all the political buildings? You think they're about freedom, your freedom, America's freedom, anybody's freedom? That's not what the flag means. That's what you want it to mean. When you wave the flag, maybe you mean, I love freedom. When the ruling class waves the flag, they want power over you and over the rest of the world. They use your patriotism against you by confusing you about the distinction between loving the people around you and the place where you live and the principles of freedom and justice and all that, which, good, love those things, defend those things, support those things. But they want you to confuse that for loyalty to a bunch of political parasites. That's what the flag means, and you say it in the pledge, to the republic for which it stands. It's a ruling class. There are so many good intentions you have, and the political parasites will use them, including Republican parasites, will use your good intentions as an excuse for them to grab more power over you and over everybody else. They talk to you about the scourge of drug use and drug addiction. You don't want people addicted to these horrible drugs that make them just useless, brain-dead zombies. Good, I don't want them to do that either. So you support the war on drugs because we're going to stop that drug abuse. We're going to end this. Are you? The war on drugs has been around forever. What was the result? Drugs won. In the war on drugs, drugs won. It won that war. And authoritarianism won. It didn't make anybody free. It didn't stop the habits. It didn't stop the abuse. It made them 100 times worse. We already had a perfect before and after example. It was alcohol prohibition, where people said, oh, alcohol addiction is a problem, which it is for a lot of people. Let's ban it. And they did. And immediately organized crime took it over and made everything related to that more violent, more corrupt, just like the war on drugs. And you now complain about scary Mexican drug cartels. Those scary Mexican drug cartels exist entirely because of the war on drugs that you supported. It created the black market that created the profit motive for these big, nasty, violent gangs that work outside of the law. Your good intentions to not see people having those destructive habits made it 1,000 times worse. So the question is, are your intentions really good enough? Do you have the intellectual honesty to back up and look what it is that you supported and realized what you supported, despite your good intentions, made it 1,000 times worse? It made the drugs more dangerous. It involved violence, whether you're talking about the drug cartels in Mexico or the violent street gangs in the U.S. that make their money off of drugs. You made that happen by looking for a political solution, by thinking government power was going to correct human behavior. So, do you actually care enough about humanity to admit that your good intentions, plus the politicians offering you a political solution, made it 1,000 times worse? Supporting law enforcement makes people less safe. Supporting the U.S. military makes people less safe. Supporting the war on drugs makes people less safe. It makes drug addicts less safe. It makes everybody else less safe. Your good intentions, I commend them. Good job. But you can't really pretend that you really have good intentions unless you're willing to back up and ask yourself, has my political position actually helped? Now, don't tell me how horrible the Democrats are. I know. I don't want them in power either. Don't mistake me for somebody who, if I don't cheer for the political crooks you vote for, I must want the other ones. No, I absolutely do not. You have far more in common, all you Republicans. You have far more in common with every Democrat than I do. Between you and them, you both believe there should be a ruling class taxing the hell out of everybody. You may want them taxed this much instead of this much, but you still vote for people you know are going to tax your neighbors to fund things that some of them don't want. I won't do that because I actually don't want people robbed. So when you say you want to protect the innocent, does that include protecting them from the violent aggressors who work for the government that you vote for? Because the badge-wearing thieves steal more than all other thieves combined. You can look it up if you want. The military forces commit more terrorism and gun confiscation and torture and murder than all private individuals combined, whether you want to admit it or not. And when somebody leaks a video that shows what's actually happening, what you're actually voting for, what you proudly pay for and vocally support, I support the troops. Well, here's a video of the troops committing murder. Well, are you going to make excuses and demonstrate that your intentions aren't actually good? Or will you be consistent enough and principled enough that when the people you cheered for and the people you empower and the people that you look up to do something bad, you're first in line to condemn them? Are you? Or are you first in line to make excuses? Oh, there's a video of a few cops beating the hell out of some unarmed person. Well, you don't know the context, and I'm going to assume that there must have been some good reason for them to do that. Does that really match what you believe and your good intentions? Or are you just making excuses for the fact that you were duped into cheering for a political solution that doesn't match your supposed good intentions? And instead of being able to admit that you were wrong and that you shouldn't support Republican power-happy psychos any more than you should support Democrat power-happy psychos, instead you double down and make excuses. That doesn't show good intentions on your part. I was raised conservative, constitutionalist leaning. That's what I grew up in. My good intentions made me a proud supporter of the county sheriff and the Fraternal Order of Police. I supported law enforcement. I supported the troops. I supported the military because I thought those things represented protecting innocent people. They don't. It took me many years to accept that they don't. My good intentions had been hijacked by political liars and parasites, and I was tricked into cheering for the exact opposite of what I actually believed. Law enforcers are organized crime. That's all they are. They run a protection racket exactly the way the mafia does. We're here to protect the innocent. Oh, really? How do your customers sign up for this? Oh, you don't sign up. We force you to pay for it by way of taxes. And if we do a crappy job and we're corrupt and we do a bad job of protecting the innocent and we're also constantly accosting and robbing the innocent, you don't have a choice. You still have to pay us. You still have to pay your taxes because we're going to show up with guns if you don't and take your property or maybe take you and put you in a cage. Is that the protection of the innocent that you believe in? If you're a Republican, if you vote for political conservatives, you're voting for organized crime, exactly the same way the Democrats are, exactly the same way the liberals are. You just want a slightly different flavor of organized crime. You just hope they mostly rob those people instead of those people, and mostly beat up those people instead of those people. That's not freedom. That's not protecting the innocent. So I commend you for a lot of your good intentions, if they are actually good intentions. And the test of whether you actually have good intentions is when it is brought to your attention that what you have been cheering for is not a military that protects our borders and protects us from invasion. It's a standing army that works for a bunch of political parasites, violently imposing their will around the world and serving the interests of warmongers and giant corporations. That's staring you in the face. They barely hide it. Are you still going to support that? Are you still going to pretend to have good intentions while you look the other way at from the reality of what you're actually supporting? Are you going to keep supporting those brave men and women in law enforcement when over and over and over and over and over again they demonstrate that they're just mindless thugs of the state? And no, it isn't because, well, if you don't like it, you must just be a criminal. No, that's stupid. It's a stupid excuse for you to not admit that you've been supporting the opposite of what you say you believe in. If you believe in protecting the innocent, you will 100% be anti-cop. If you believe in protecting from scary international people, you will absolutely be 100% anti the U.S. military. And if you actually believe in individual freedom and justice, you will be 100% anti-government. Government and politics is never, ever the path to freedom or justice or any of the things you say you believe in. That's why, even though I was raised conservative, I'm now a voluntarist. I see there is no political solution. There is no ruling class that's going to be in line with what I actually believe in, which is protecting the innocent and having human freedom. So, right now, with the way the world is, this is sort of a test to see whether your intentions really are as good as you say they are, or whether your attachment to a political agenda matters more to you than actually doing the right thing and actually admitting that you were duped into cheering for the wrong thing. So, as a former conservative, I'm just going to ask you, if the choice is between authoritarianism or freedom and justice, which do you choose? Because if you vote, you're on that side. You're not on the side of freedom and justice. Vote for anybody. And telling me that the other candidate is even worse, I don't care. You're still choosing anti-freedom, anti-justice authoritarianism as long as you support the monstrosity called government. Thankfully, lots and lots of people who used to be conservatives have now figured that out and have finally abandoned the whole political game. And by the way, lots and lots of people who used to be politically liberal did the same thing. And guess what? Those two groups of people get along just fine. Because instead of arguing over how to use the violence of the state to dominate each other, they figured out how to actually peacefully coexist, how to actually live and let live. You get to spend your own money. You get to make your own choices. You get to decide what you support, and the other guy gets to decide what he supports and the choices he makes. And you don't have to like them. You don't have to approve of them. But if you believe in freedom, that means believing in people having the freedom to do things that you wouldn't do and you wouldn't choose. And only supporting force to stop someone who's actually committing aggression, fraud or assault or robbery. Because if you advocate force to stop those things, I'm absolutely on your side. Government is never, ever, ever a protector. It is always an aggressor. Even when it tells you, we're here to protect and serve, by way of robbing all of you to fund our protection racket. So, if you have good intentions, prove it. Stop supporting authoritarian idiocy and having your excuse be, well, the other side is even worse. If you believe in protecting the innocent, if you believe in freedom, act like it.